Shalom and a very warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to each and every one of you, wherever you are around the world. We are in the studio here of Israel Vision in Mevaseret Zion, which means announcing good news from Zion. And do I have good news for you today? We are doing a very, very special honor day to the Holocaust survivors. This is the day, Holocaust Day in Israel. Also, we're going to be talking about the Durban II conference in Geneva and the circus that is. And my guest today is David Rawlings. Don't go away. You will not want to miss this program. We'll be right back after this. Hello, my name is Jay Rawlings, and for 30 years now I've produced films and documentaries as well as TV shows about Israel and her people. Today, with IsraelVision.tv, our new broadband internet station, you can join our growing audience and enjoy hundreds of programs and news shows from Israel about Israel, keeping you informed and in touch, and it's for free. Enjoy Israel at your fingertips with www.israelvision.tv. Well, welcome back, and I'm so glad to have you into our studio today and to introduce you to my son, David Rawlings, who is actually the producer of this show. And I'm always glad to have you on the program, David, because you add a lot in, and it's just a delight to have you with me.
Well, thanks, Dad. I think practice makes perfect, and I'm gonna,
So, David, we're talking about two things today. The fact that it's Holocaust Remembrance Day here in Israel, and that it's last night was the conference in Geneva called the Durban II Conference of Racism Against Racism, and it was addressed by Ahmadinejad.
It says here, it is the World Conference Against Racism, Racial Discrimination, Xenophobia, and Related Intolerance.
Okay, so what happened last night?
Quite a bit of intolerance, I would say. And, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, however you say his name, but I think that's how you say it.
That's right, you're right. The president of Iran.
The president of Iran was invited, a Jew hater, a Holocaust denier.
Right.
And it's so weird that intelligent people who make up, these committees to invite people would invite this man. I mean, it almost seems like it was planned.
Here is a racist being invited to the keynote address of an anti-racist conference. I mean, that's beyond comprehension.
It is, like a lot of things in the UN, but yeah, it is. I mean, pretty soon Iran will be on the board for human rights. Human Rights Watch. It's like, oh man.
So he's lying right through his teeth, and people are accepting
But he smiles.
He smiles, but people are accepting his lies. He's saying that Israel must be destroyed,
yes,
and must be removed from the family of nations. And thank God there was many nations stood up and walked out when he started this kind of rhetoric.
That was actually an amazing shot to see all of those politicians stand up and leave the hall mid-sentence.
Yeah, that was a vitally important, stand. But why were they there in the first place? They knew that this was going to happen.
Yeah, but I mean, the people who are sitting there don't decide who's going to be talking, right?
Right.
Somebody else did. And the fact that the head of the UN, Ban Ki-moon, didn't get up, I think when he's right there saying to the world, and the scary thing is that he's saying this not only to the world, well, he is saying it to the world, but to the young generation, and he's trying to rewrite history. And when let's say a lot of people are looking at a president of a country, you have the idea that this man is an educated man, this man knows what he's talking about, because he's representing a very serious nation, an ancient nation, Iran/Persia.
Yeah.
The Iranians are extremely intelligent people.
Yes.
And so, you think that, what on earth?
Yeah.
These people have decided to have a representative, and you would think that he would try to say the truth, but the absolute opposite is happening.
See, now this is the other thing that worries me. If you think about it, it was in Switzerland, and it was also that the Norwegian delegate, he stayed through the whole thing and even applauded his speech. Now, what does that say? It says that we haven't progressed in the last 64 years since the end of the Second World War. It's still the same thing. During the Holocaust, Switzerland really did not help the Jews in neighboring Germany. They actually kept them out. There was a border blockage.
Yeah.
Secondly, the Norwegians added a word to the English language, quisling, because the Norwegian quisling, he was a betrayer. And he betrayed the Jewish community in his own country in favor of the Nazis. And he was a betrayer, and he betrayed the Allies. And so the word quisling, a Norwegian name, is now a word in the English language that means betrayer. Now, we are seeing the Word of God coming to pass.
You're really fired up here.
The Bible says that a liar will not get into heaven. It says, where is it? I've just lost it. Here it is. A false witness will not go unpunished, and he who speaks lies will not escape. And then over in verse 21, chapter 21 of Proverbs, verse 28, it says, a false witness shall perish, but the man who hears him will speak endlessly. And that's exactly what's happened in this thing. There's a 30-page document of all their, different, what do you call it?
Well, some of them are very good.
Oh, they're great. They're wonderful. They're important. But they're speaking endlessly and listening to this drivel of this liar. Well, and the Bible also says, excuse me, but I'm so irritated because it says in Genesis chapter 12, verse 2 and 3, it says that I will bless them that bless thee, and I will curse him that curses thee. He is drawing a curse on himself.
And his entire nation.
His nation, sadly, because he's a Holocaust denier, and he's called 300 times in the last few years for the destruction of Israel.
At least
publicly.
Times.
You don't know how many times he's called for it privately. Publicly. So he is a very worrisome person in the world. And also, the thing that the Israelis are concerned about is that he has nuclear he's working on getting a nuclear capability. He has ballistic missiles to come all the way here and into Eastern Europe, Western Europe. And thirdly, to carry nuclear weapons into Western Europe. And thirdly, he is supplying the arms for Hezbollah in Lebanon and for Hamas in Gaza, surrounding Israel. So they are actually the surrogates.
Well, they're proxies
armies of Iran. And so it's a very strange situation in the world when evil is being called good and good is being called evil. Now, we need to talk about what he is against. He's against Israel. He calls Israel a racist nation because it's Zionist. The same thing as the first conference in Durban. Well, the real Durban conference, the first one, back in '96. And that was when they called racism, Zionism was racism. Now, what is Zionism? Just for our viewing audience to let them know what Zionism is. Zionism is that noble aspiration of the Jewish people to come home and live in the land that God gave to them in the Bible. The promise of the Bible that God said, and Zion in the Bible, if you do a study in Scripture, you find
800 times?
Yeah, you find that the word Zion means three things, basically. It means the land of Israel, the holy city of Jerusalem, and the people of Israel.
That's right.
Once, I think it was mentioned that the church is called Zion, but it is never to replace the Jews in their land and in their holy calling of coming back. So when he calls for the lie that Zionism is racism, then he's really coming against the Bible and he's coming against God.
Well, what else is new? I mean, the Jewish people have lived an existence of upside downness, a history. I mean, everything is upside down for the Jewish people.
Yeah, and they've always been attacked, no matter when. You go all the way back to Amalek in the Bible. When the Jews were coming into the land of promise,
they came and attacked the weak and the lame that were straggling.
Exactly. They were attacked by Amalek. And so this spirit of Amalek has come down through history all the way to today, and we see it working out in the political leadership of the world today.
Now today is Holocaust Memorial Day, and there's going to be a siren soon. And we have a cameraman out there going to shoot while the siren goes off so that we can show the people what happens here in this country for 2 minutes on Holocaust Memorial Day. Now what happens is people stop their car, the radio goes off, TV goes off, everything stops for 2 minutes. People get out of their car, or if they're pedestrians on the street, they'll stop walking and they'll just stand and remember the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust. But we know that there were many, many more victims. So for him to deny the Holocaust, you know, is fine. He's a Jew hater, so he wants he wants, you know, 6 million, 6 million Jews weren't killed. That's whatever. What about the other 7 or 8 of the other types of people? The gypsies, million. Yeah. Gypsies and Christians and some Catholic priests that were against. I mean, it was just.
So this is the day in which Israel has chosen to remember the Holocaust and to remember and to honor those who paid the supreme price. Now, your wife is a direct descendant of victims of the Holocaust, of victims of Auschwitz.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit of you, in other words, your children, my grandchildren, your children are descendants of Holocaust.
Oh, there goes the siren.
Oh. Wow, that is so arresting to hear that siren.
It is. It's a bit scary, and that reminds me of a story that my son told me yesterday, because you know, coming from a Holocaust surviving family, the Holocaust is a really difficult subject to approach, and you know, being good Jewish grandmothers and good Jewish mothers, my mother-in-law and my wife. They want to pamper and protect the kids as much as possible, so they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to scare them. They don't want to like fill them full of hatred for the Germans or the Nazis. And I think it's very important to make that difference between the German people and the Nazis.
Right, right.
The German people today, you know, are loath to remember their history.
Yeah. But they remember it.
But they remember it, and it's very important.
Yeah.
But so Amitai was kind of asking me what to do when the siren goes off. So I said, you need to just think about the people in your family that the Nazis murdered. He says, well, I don't really know about too many of the people in my family. So that reminded me that you know, mother-in-law and mother really don't like to talk about it very much. Mm-hmm. And so I explained to him that he had a great-grandfather, very successful lawyer in Berlin. He owned blocks of the city. He was a very, very wealthy man. And that got Amitai all excited until the fact that, you know, he, one bright day, or one very dark day, knock on the door, "Sir, come with us," ended up in Auschwitz and ended up being, vaporized and his particles floating all over Poland. And that's another thing that the Jews like to say, why do you think Poland's so green? I mean, think about that. You know, it's a disgusting thought.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an absolute disgusting thought.
You know, I want to just, for our viewing audience, to bring them into the reality of what David had just said. The Holocaust deniers are not in reality because of history. What does history say? The historical documents are there. The Nazis themselves kept them, and the Germans have kept them today, God bless them, in this place called Bad Arolsen. They have this huge library there, a huge library, very methodically kept every name of every person that went through those camps and was killed, and they're 15 kilometers long of files. 15 kilometers.
Pretty meticulous.
And so there's no question about the fact that the Holocaust occurred. Even those who were perpetrators in the Holocaust are now coming out and saying Holocaust deniers are crazy. You know, they're saying this in Germany or wherever they are around the world, because most of them ran away and went to South America or wherever. But in 1944, these are a few facts that Meredale gleaned before this program. And these are a few facts that this General Brandt, or a high officer, Brandt, in the Nazis, offered 1 million Hungarian Jews for 10,000 trucks. 10,000 trucks. And that's what they were believing that would help them win the war. You know, they needed trucks. So, and then what did the Allies say? No, the Allies said, no, we're not going to be blackmailed by the Nazis and give them trucks for Jews. And it came out later, one of the reasons, the Brits and the Americans said it, but one of the reasons, and we won't say who said this, but I believe it was Britain, they said, we don't want to have to absorb 1 million Jews.
And, you know, there was a whole conference. Where was that conference? There's a whole conference in 1938 that opened up the doors in Switzerland. Excuse me. That opened up the doors for this, and they were discussing, the European nations were discussing the Jewish refugee problem.
Yes.
And the Australians were there, the Canadians were there, the Americans were there, the Canadians.
The Evian conference.
That's right.
That's right.
And the Canadians said, none is too many.
That's right. Not one Jew.
Not one Jew.
Can you imagine Canada, the huge country of Canada?
We don't have enough space.
Yeah.
And the Australians said, well, we don't have a problem, and we don't want to create a problem, so you just keep your own Jews there. You know. So
then the Auschwitz, of course, is documented. It was photographed in 1944 by U.S. reconnaissance planes. They photographed it very extensively, and there was no question of what was going on there. In fact, Switzerland knew about the death camps because of people that escaped and ran and they smuggled papers and they came into Switzerland, and they knew about it. They told the officials in the UK and also in the USA, but it was all covered up. Covered up. And even
Jewish groups even started to ask the Allies to bomb just bomb the rail lines on the way,
and
they wouldn't do it because they didn't want the Nazis to know that they knew.
Yeah,
it's like what?
It's beyond comprehension, and there's such a danger of doing nothing. And now the world is confronted with this Ahmadinejad who says he's going to kill and get rid of Israel. And what is the world doing?
It's an Evian applaud and say,
yes.
"Oh, he's just joking. He's maybe he's feeling a bit funny today." You know, he's not taking him seriously.
The Israelis are saying that he is the reincarnation of Hitler. And Menachem Begin, one of the great prime ministers of Israel, said, you say it.
No, you say it, it's fine.
When someone says they're going to kill you, just believe them. Is that difficult? And that's where we're at today. Now here's some quotes. Dave, just pass on these quotes to our viewers. Our time is running away on us. But they're shocking quotes, but they say it all.
Okay. The first one is by, St. Augustine. He was a very important man in the Christian world, and healed people. He did wonderful things. He was poor. He fed the poor. He was born rich and became poor. In the 5th century, he said, and determined that Jews were not to be killed, oh thank goodness, rather they should be kept in a humiliated state until they accept Christ. That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
You know, talk about no freedom of religion. Well, there wasn't back then anyways, but still.
He also said, slay them not, but scatter them abroad, get rid of them. Then Kurt Tucholsky, a German essayist of Jewish origins, he said, and this is, I think, very apropos about what we're talking about the countries today at this conference in Geneva, the Durban II. A country is not just what it does, it is also what it tolerates.
Yeah, we got to be careful what we tolerate.
Yeah.
Now, number 9 here on this list of how many are there? There are 143 points to what the Durban Conference is talking about and wants to accomplish for human rights and anti-racism. Now, number 9, it says the Durban Declaration reaffirms that responsibility of governments for the safeguarding and protecting the rights of individuals within their jurisdiction against crimes perpetrated by racist or xenophobic individuals or groups or agents of the state. What does that mean? Not only, no, I mean, no. What I'm trying to say is,
that Ahmadinejad,
what is he doing up there speaking?
He's out of place. He's out of place. You know, there was a protest at the conference. Some Jewish students went there, and they wore clown outfits and their hats, and they threw at Ahmadinejad clown noses, and they, of course, were stopped. But they said, "This is a circus."
It is a circus.
It's a circus, and yet the world watches it and believes it.
Now, you know what's going to be really interesting? I don't know how much time we have left, but next week we have Itamar Malkus coming on, I think it's Monday now. And he is a very, very important man. He monitors what the Arabs are saying to themselves about Israel, and especially, specifically the Palestinians. But he is now in Geneva for this conference.
Yeah.
So he's going to come back. He's going to come back. He's going to talk with us about what he experienced in Geneva.
An eye-view witness. Yes. So, David, we are in the time when it is imperative for Israel Vision, an organization that God has placed here in this land, that we speak out and tell the truth as never before. Ladies and gentlemen, we want you to go to our website, www.israelvision.tv, and there you will find all kinds of programs about Israel, about the Holocaust, about Yad Vashem, about the Holocaust Memorial, I should say, in Jerusalem, about programs we have done down through the last 30 years of these very subjects. And there's a plethora of information there, and we encourage you to go and to avail yourself to this information. Yes, David?
Yeah, the other thing is, though, I must say to people out there watching, we operate on a very, very, very shoestring budget. We have a shoestring staff. It's amazing that what we can actually accomplish, but we want to do a lot more. And the only way we can do more is if people like you who are watching right now will support us. We can't. We can barely, pay our bills, but we know that we're doing the right thing. We know that we're supposed to be here. And if you believe that, please support us. Because we have gone all over the city, and the Jewish people have opened up their archives to us, but we just don't have the staff to archive their stuff and put it on the website so that everybody can be educated about what goes on in this country. I mean, we have a very, very important task, I feel. Yeah. And it's just getting bigger and bigger, and time is running away. Time is of the essence. We need help now.
I'm so grateful that all 4 of our sons, David, Chris, Josh, and Daniel, are all working with us, and now Paul Chobaniak, my nephew, he's here in the studio. We are so delighted that we as a family can work together and to bring forth good news from Zion. We want to thank you for being with us. We want to thank you for your prayers. We just want you to know that we appreciate you And as David said, we look forward to hearing from you. And remember, the Bible says, I will bless them that bless thee. So we want you to be blessed. So bless what God has blessed. And we look forward to hearing from you. And may God be with you. And we wish you shalom from Jerusalem, from Mevaseret Zion, wherever you are.
Join Dr. J and Meridel Rawlings on their special Holy Land Watchman's Prayer Tour 2009. Visit the biblical sites. Intercede on location over the places at the cutting edge of world current events. Experience the life, ministry, and passion of Jesus the Messiah from Galilee to Jerusalem. Enjoy the natural beauty of God's chosen land. And help fulfill prophecy by planting trees in the wilderness. Explore the historical and spiritual background of Israel's prophetic fulfillment.